For years, President Trump's money was getting shunned by all the major banks in the U.S. Now his wealth has found a new home, Citi. Bloomberg sources reveal that President Trump's son, Eric, established a trust at the bank that holds some of the president's money. For more, we're joined now by Bloomberg banking reporter Todd Gillespie. Todd, first of all, fantastic story, but what exactly is the arrangement that Eric has found with Citibank?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. I mean, so what we do know is that since the election, Jane Fraser, as many corporate leaders in America did, reached out to President Donald Trump to congratulate him. As part of those talks, in some way, Eric Trump ended up becoming a client of Citigroup. We know that he's now a client of Citigroup's private bank and has set up this trust where he is basically managing, or sort of the trustee of this trust, essentially. But the money in the trust is his father's, and it's for the benefit of his father. His father is a beneficiary of this trust. So we know now, the president's finances have obviously been a matter of, intense interest. Generally, the family and the president have already had to disclose one trust that we know was set up several years ago, the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, which is at another bank, and largely looked after by Don Jr., as we understand it, as legal filings show. This is a new trust, a previously unreported trust, which again, helps us put another piece of this puzzle with the president's wealth.
And I mean, during the first administration, there was a question about how inflated the president's wealth was from his perspective, whether he really was worth more than $1 billion. And now, I mean, since the November election, his wealth has skyrocketed. We now have him pegged at about $7.7 billion on the Bloomberg Rich List.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. Yeah, his wealth has more than doubled, essentially, since starting his second presidential campaign. So, aside from the fact he's the president of the United States, he's also a very valuable client, potentially, for any bank like Citigroup. But also in the context right now, no suggestion necessarily of a quid pro quo or anything like that, but every bank across Wall Street is doing their best to ingratiate themselves with the administration, but particularly for Citigroup right now, they need support from the government. They need to be in the government's good books because they have two key regulatory consent orders that are hanging over them and have been since 2020, and they got a big fine from their government regulators last year. So Jane Fraser, it certainly doesn't hurt that she's in the good books if indeed this is part of that, in the Trump administration. And she was one of two U.S. bank CEOs that attended the state banquet in the UK just last month with King Charles and President Donald Trump. And there she
Brian Moynihan.
And Brian Moynihan, yeah. It was Fraser and Brian Moynihan of Bank of America. And Fraser herself was sat next to one of the White House deputy chiefs of staff.
Who is married to what?
Who was married to the former assistant of Jared Kushner, whose family also banked with Citigroup, and that is a long-standing
relationship. It was honestly a great
relationship.
story, Todd. I read every single word.
It was a really good story, and it's just kind of the strange, because we remember Davos, where President Trump lashed out at Brian Moynihan, who was kind of left speechless and didn't know really what to say to him. It seems like a turn in favor if all of a sudden they're having dinner at the White House with President Trump.
Sure. Well, and we do know that JP Morgan as well, Jamie Dimon, has been on the receiving end of Trump's ire as well. But one bank that has largely escaped criticism here, never really been, a target of President Trump's public comments, is Citigroup. But we do know that Citigroup had a banking relationship with the Trump organization or Trump's businesses back in the 1990s and did lose money on that. They were burnt, when Trump had his experiment with Trump Shuttle, the airline that faltered, big real estate loans that needed to be restructured. Citibank kept cropping up there as one of the largest lenders. Obviously, that relationship soured, went quiet for many years, and now it seems like they're back in some form.
I think it's interesting to watch the two brothers kind of jockey for position, right? During the first administration, it was Trump's daughter who was seemingly the favored child, or certainly more in the public spotlight, right? And now you have Eric Trump kind of rising up, his profile getting almost bigger than Donald Trump Jr.
Especially with all the crypto stuff that he's
exactly.
doing.
Yeah.
And they've made so much money with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Eric Trump, we know, is the executive vice president of the Trump organization now. He has been a key part in building a lot of these relationships on behalf of his father. Donald Trump Jr., Don Jr. is, doing private equity, venture capital stuff on the side as well. But, this is the second term right now these relationships have been built across New York, across the world, across the Middle East now, of course, as well. And these sons are certainly playing a key role in cultivating that.